There we go. Wonderful. Jim, you're sharing your puppy today. Hi, puppy. All
She
right. Good
wanted lap
afternoon.
time. That
Yes. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining. I'm so excited to see you all. And again, I acknowledge and I honor each of you for committing time and energy to being here and to building, rebuilding, and supporting our community. And I like to say that you all are the heart and the breath of the foundation and the living fabric of our community. So without you, we couldn't do this work at all. So we appreciate each and every single one of you. Janelle, I'm talking to you. Joel, talking to you. Franny, I'm talking to you.
I
You
also
know,
you.
we really appreciate what you do and value your time and energy. So we'll wait just a couple minutes for others to join, but just a quick announcement about review teams, site visits, and our engagement strategy. Applications to be a grant reviewer close on March 22nd. And we actually only have a few spots left at this point, and we're looking for a group of people who are representative of our entire community. So we're looking for folks like you, and we'd love to have you join us. Is there anyone on the call that can speak to the review team experience? Who's been a review team member with me?
I can speak to it.
Yeah, yeah. All right.
I was on the review team for the spring cycle last year, and it was my first experience with it. And it was really, really great. I got to learn so much about a bunch of, I think it was 9 or 10 different organizations that were part of my group. And I got to read all those grants and learn about, in much greater detail, what's happening in the community. Here, I was really actually like enlivening and heart expanding to just see all the great work that people are doing. And yeah, it was fun working with the team and exploring our different viewpoints on things and sharing perspectives. And yeah, the whole process was super enriching. I wish I had time to do it again this year, but I'm afraid I'm super swamped with
Okay.
my job now. I was unemployed at the time, but now, yeah, we're in the process of ramping things up at the Foundation of Light where I work now. And so I'm deep in it.
Deep in it.
But
It's
I
okay.
highly recommend
Yes.
people joining because it's an awesome experience if you haven't
Yes.
tried it.
Thank you for that ad. And I promise I didn't pay her to say all those wonderful things. But I've included the link to the application in the chat if anyone is interested in joining. Also, as our commitment to being more present in the community, we've opened up our site visits to community members who'd like to attend and learn about the other organizations in the community. I will put a link in the chat to for you all to register for a site visit as well. Additionally, we'd like to know more about how you'd want to see us engage with you. Outside of the grant cycle, we do a lot for grant cycle, but we want to know how we can be more present and visible in the community. So we created a 2-minute survey for you to just go in and add your thoughts. And that would really help us really design an engagement strategy. So I'm going to put those 2 links in the chat. All right, so that link, the Calendly link, that's also the link that you will go to make an appointment with me about your grant application. A one-on-one appointment with me. And then the second link is a link to the community survey. All right, so that's really it for announcements. We're going to jump right in. So welcome to our spring grant cycle Q&A. During our time together this afternoon, we'll go over some basics, review our grant guidelines, and we're going to take a look at our live application, actually online. And I don't like speaking at, everyone. So I'll try to engage you a little bit by asking a question here or there, or stopping to ask if you guys have any questions. So there'll be a lot of information coming at you. I know, especially if this is your first time as an applicant, but please don't get overwhelmed. We'll get through it together. You can always rewatch this recording or make an appointment to see me, which is super, super helpful. I see some folks still coming in. Welcome to everyone on this call and everyone watching the recording to our 2024 Spring Grant Cycle Q&A. First, can where they're viewing us from, which organization are you representing? I just, like to see who I'm talking to. Just some housekeeping guidelines. Please keep yourselves on mute when you're not speaking. Be respectful and kind to everyone. There's no judgment here, and there's no such thing as a silly question. So while I am going and presenting, write your question as they come up in the chat, and then I'll go over all of the questions towards the end. Carpentry for Women. I love it. Welcome, Maria.
Thank you.
All right. One last thing, promise. This is the last announcement, but I wanted to show you where you can find all of our up-to-date information about our grant cycles. It's on our website. You'll find the latest Q&A. So right now it's our fall Q&A that's on there, but after today, it'll be this Q&A that's on there. I will put the link in the chat as well. So that's where you will find all of our resources, how to get to our application, and all of that. All right. So we'll now get started. Welcome, Janelle. All right. Oops. Went too far. Okay, so at this point, I think most of you have gotten to know me a little bit. I'm best known as a community advocate, organizer. I'm a community mom, community auntie. I met a lot of you in my community work while at grad school at Cornell. I have my MPA degree, and my last role as a community engagement director at GAC, also known as the Greater Ithaca Activities Center. I'm the fourth and the best daughter of two Haitian immigrants. My heritage plays a very important role in why I value both human life and the opportunity to serve. I am a servant leader. It's in the fabric and makeup of who I am. I'm a strategic thinker and problem solver, and I'm continuously looking for gaps in the system or ways to impact the lives of others in a positive way. I joined the Community Foundation in 2022, and I have enjoyed every minute of building a better community with you all. See, some key values that drive the work that we do with the foundation are engagement. We enjoy and value the times that we get to connect with all of you, like today. Integrity, we have strong moral principles and ethical values in everything that we do. We value racial equity, relationships, and that's relationship building and social justice. And one thing that we value most, of course, is being community driven. That's really in the fabric of who we are. So there are three main grant cycles. Library grant cycle, which is designed for our 33 libraries in the Finger Lake system. Then there are, of course, our resilient communities, spring and fall cycles. Those are our main grant cycles. But if you do have needs outside of the grant cycle, we understand that things come up if there are urgent requests or things that have specific timelines. There are ways for us to match your needs to a donor advised fund or special interest fund to help support you. And an example that I like to use is I think it was maybe last year, December, the Downtown Ithaca Child Care Center had a boiler that broke. And within 24 hours, we were able to fund their request. So that was an urgent request that came in. Wasn't during the grant cycle, but we were able to help them. Okay, If you received funding from the Community Foundation in the spring of 23, so last year on this time, you had a grant report that was due on January 31st. So I hope this is not news to anyone because that would be alarming. If you did receive a grant in 23 and have not submitted your report, please reach out to me ASAP. I don't want to say that you're not eligible because we don't do that around here, but we'll work with you to get that grant report in. So the application is now live and it will be due on April 10th. That's about a month and a week away. Reports for this cycle are due January 31st of 2025. Just a reminder that we are awarding unrestricted dollars. So we are one of the only funders in the area that are awarding unrestricted funding. So that means that it's not attached to any specific project. And you can use it for your operations budget. You can use it for a project if you want. Whatever you need it for, you're able to pivot and be flexible. This also means that I do not ask the question on the application, what will the funds be used for? Now, I know that's alarming for some because everyone wants to put that information somewhere, but we've realized, after our post-evaluation surveys, and we realized that it really clouds the judgment of some of our reviewers. So to let reviewers really focus on the organization itself and not specific projects, we do not ask what the grant will be used for. We like to emphasize that staff, neither our board, sit around the table and decide who gets funded. We have a very comprehensive, well thought out, intentional grant review process, fueled and driven by our community members. Community members like Eva. Applications are assessed using a scoring rubric based on how well you conveyed your stories and the information that you presented. Here is a photo of our 23 spring review team. And there goes Eva. This group was the most diverse in age, ranging from 25 years old to 83 years old. A range of different backgrounds, single parents, retired academia folks. We have nonprofit directors, students from everywhere. And this is what we love to see. We're thankful for our reviewers and we are actively recruiting for our review team. Remember, there's only a few spots left. Check the chat for the link to apply. We do something called matchmaking, and this is how we magnify philanthropy. We have additional support to offer where we kind of look for alignment based on your request and our alignment to our special issue funds. In your application, there's a question where we ask, what's your priority area? And then there is between 8 to 10 different areas, and there are 8 on your screen, where we carry specific funds where we can match your request with that fund. We also help fill gaps by sharing your application and your information with our many, many donor advisors. They will take a look at your application, and if it's in their philanthropic interest, they will go in and pick up your request. Application questions are actually available for download online at that link that I posted in the chat, also in our grant portal. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide so we can dig into the good stuff. So I'll skip. We've made a DEI statement on our application as well that I encourage you all to read fully to truly understand what we are trying to lean into. And that is in your application. We are being very intentional as we collect more DEI-related grant-making data to address community issues. And in your application evaluations, it was clear that we must adjust our strategy and ease our way into asking the right questions. So we've adjusted our scoring rubric for our review team members to adjust for organizations who are just starting this work. So we thought it was really important to do that. We ask questions about your approach to DEI, to the DEI work and how it impacts the community. We ask about how the grant impacts this work specifically. So on your screen, you see a few different questions that we ask as it relates to DEI. So there are a couple new things this cycle. We have updated our grant guidelines, which I will end up going through on this call. Application questions and our rubric to include more inclusive and simplified language. Beginning last cycle, we've added implicit bias training to our review team orientation. Excuse me, we felt that that was really important to include as review team members are going over your applications. We ask that they put their, name their biases, check their biases, put it to the side as they are reviewing applications. Let's see. So this is where I stop to ask if you have any questions. Feel free to just unmute yourself and ask a question real quick, or I guess you can put it in the chat if you'd like, if you don't want to pop off. Anyone have any questions? Katie, what you got for me?
Can you hear me? Sorry.
Katie, how are you?
Good. How are you? So I'm in a very
Good.
room right now. So I don't know if you can hear me. Thanks for all this information. Very helpful. Because there's no financial or budgeting sheet, does that mean that we don't need to submit like a Form 990 or like a request letter, or how does that work for those of us that like?
So when I said no, no budget spreadsheet, that was because historically there was a all-encompassing, very detailed financial spreadsheet that applicants used to have to fill out, and that included prior year budgeting, current year budgeting, and forecasted year budgeting. So we got rid of that altogether. So that's what we said when we say that. However, on the application, we ask your budgeted revenue, expenses, and then where all of your income comes from. And then we do ask you to upload a financial, either a budget or any financial document that you can provide. We do ask for that. Thanks, Katie, for your question. Any other questions before I continue? Okay, so.
Wait, one second.
Oops, sorry.
Sorry. Hi, Gloria. Thank you for hosting this. We at Friends of Stewart Park are going to be submitting a joint application with the Friends of Stewart Park being the lead organization on the application. And I know that letters of support are a part of what we will be submitting. So the joint application.
That's not required for us.
It's not required.
No.
Oh, okay. I thought it was.
Yes.
I retract my question.
Okay. Well, great. Letters of support are not required with us. So we're good to go. Good to go there.
Great.
All right. So we're gonna take a look at the guidelines. I'm not gonna cover everything because I want to get to the grant portal and the application and all of that wonderful stuff. So, let's see, let's pull this up. Can you all see this? Try to make it bigger. See something in this corner? Is it in this corner? There it is. Okay. Thanks for having grace. All right, so here is our 2024 spring grant guidelines, just some very useful information. Here's our mission. Here's some important dates in our grant making philosophy. Here tells you a little bit about our priorities and our commitment. A little bit about our grant making, which I went over, about our donor advised funds, our field of interest funds. And then I've included some tips for a strong application. You can read all of this on your own. Here's what review teams will be focusing on. So review teams will be looking at whether or not all the guidelines are met. We want to make sure that all of those guidelines are met. The sources of support are clearly identified. Desirable goals are effectively set and reasonable in service to the mission. So we do ask a question about 2 organizational goals. That's a really important question. Effective adaptability of services to meet community needs. So how are you showing up for the community? There's clear evidence of collaboration. Are you collaborating or are you working in a silo? Or how are you collaborating? And then we do look for your DEI initiatives. So our promise to you, we do commit to and lean into something called trust-based philanthropy. I talk about that all the time when I'm talking to folks. So I encourage you to, it's a hot link. I encourage you to go in and look at what trust-based philanthropy is. And there is a whole slew of things that we incorporate into our grant making. And one of those things is the fact that we are granting unrestricted funding. So that's funding not specifically tied to projects. And we also streamline reporting on top of, really building community trust. Another thing that we promise to you is to conduct a fair, equitable, and transparent grant review process. That's something that we take very seriously. The grant review process is like, it's my birth child, and I take it very, very seriously. So we promise that is fair and it's equitable. A little bit information about how, of course, there's no way that we can grant every single organization at 100%, but we do our best to make do with what we have as far as our discretionary funds and our special interest funds and our donor advisors. So for our grant guidelines, applications, and some of this is just, some of this you all know already because you've done this a million times, but I'm just going to go over it really quickly. Applications must be completed and submitted through our online portal by April 10th. So that's the deadline, 5 p.m. Late applications will not be accepted. Of course, if there is an extenuating circumstance that you just cannot get out of course, I will work with you. The link to the application, it could be found on our website. The live link is also found here. So if you pull up our grant guidelines, you can access it there as well. The grant award must be used within 12 months of receiving the grant because we not generally, but we ask for a report the following year. And if you have not expended all of the funds, we do ask that you reach out to us and let us know if you plan to repurpose it or whatever the case might be. Just make sure that you reach out to us. Applicants may, and this is new this year, and of course, this is in response to post-evaluation survey information that we got. Applicants may only receive up to $10,000 per calendar year. So please plan accordingly. We realize that there are those organizations who are larger organizations and have applied every cycle, and they're just great at writing grant applications. They say all the right things and they do all the right things and connect with our review team member, and they're just fantastic. And they get full funding every cycle. And that's not fair to the smaller organizations that really need our support. So my committee, our community engagement committee, came up with this idea just the last time that we met. And we are limiting, we don't want to say limiting, but organizations will get granted up to $10,000 per calendar year. So for example, if you get partial funding for the spring, let's say you got $8,000, and then you apply in the fall, then the max amount that you can get would be $2,000. So $10,000 per calendar year. Grant recipients are required to submit a final grant report January of 2025. So that's next year. Grantees must be a 501c3 organization or equivalent. So you have to be either a school, a unit of government, a faith-based organization, or you have to have a fiscal sponsor. So if you are a private organization and you're looking to get a grant, you do need someone to sponsor you fiscally. Previous funding does not guarantee continued funding. We've gotten a lot of messages from organizations who were granted $10,000 for X amount of years over and over and over. And that became a fixture in their budget. And when they didn't get that amount, it became an issue. So because you got previous funding does not guarantee continued funding. Let's see. Applications meeting the requirements. So you meet all these requirements. It will be evaluated by a review team member. And final approval is done through our board of directors. And our application link, like I said, is here. And all first-time users, you'll create a new account, which I will go over. I'll go in and create a new account with you so you kind of see what you're looking at. If there are any technical questions, you're going to email admin@cftompkins.org if you can't get in or whatever the case is. Any other types of questions, you're going to email me, or you can call me at the foundation and leave me a message. And here's just a note from us, and I continue to say this over and over again. We acknowledge, honor, and appreciate the work that you do every single day. We see you, we feel you, we understand you, and we're here to support you in any way that we can. So please know that your work is part of the fabric and the breadth of our community, and we thank you for that. And also in our guidelines, you'll find our frequently asked questions. I won't go over this because you can just clearly read this on your own, but there's a full page of frequently asked questions, and then ways that you can contact us, and then a cute little meme I just had to include there. So you can do it, and you can do it with the support of us at the Community Foundation. All right, so do we have any questions as far as the guidelines? Any questions? I want at least one question, or I'm gonna pick on somebody.
Gloria, I have a question. It's
Oh,
Jim.
hi, Jim.
Hi there. So if you're envisioning doing things that maybe fall under multiple categories of the specific funds, I don't remember, does the application allow you to multi-click and explain that, or not really?
So we ask for your top two. So there's one question that says what's your primary, and then the other question is your secondary.
That makes sense, then that works. Thanks.
Perfect. Jed is here. Hi, Jed. Jed with 4-H, that's my buddy.
Hello, Gloria.
How are
So good
you
to see you.
today?
I'm doing okay.
Good. Did you
You.
just hop on or?
No, I've been here the whole time.
Oh, okay, good. So I can pick on you. What's your question?
You've been very thorough. As you know, I come from an organization that is made up of many smaller program areas.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that when you say, $10,000 per organization, that would mean if someone else in my association was also applying for funds, we'd have to kind of work that out amongst ourselves in terms of how much we were applying for.
Well, I would say, so CCE, I feel like is kind of like your fiscal sponsor, right? They're like an umbrella organization with lots of different organizations underneath it.
It feels that way to many of us who work
It
there,
does feel that way.
But legally it's probably all one kind of organization.
One organization. Okay.
Yeah.
So so reach out to me, Jed. Do you know, are there any other programs that are looking to apply?
I haven't heard that there are, but I plan to find out. Yeah.
Okay. So if there are, make sure you communicate with me and we'll work that out.
Great.
Primitive Pursuits is near and dear to my heart, and they know that. All of you know that very well. Shall I pick on someone else? Let's go to Franny. Franny, you got a question for me?
I mean, not yet. I noticed that Cheryl had a question in the chat that actually I was thinking about, which is
Let's see.
whether-
Hold on. Let's see. I didn't even check. Let's see.
Yeah.
Does the current guidelines of $10,000 maximum given from the Clean Foundation affect donor advice fund? Oh, no. No. So we can't control our donor advisors. Those donor advisors will fund what they want to fund.
All right, thank you,
Um,
Gloria. Thank you,
so-
Franny.
So yes, we don't, yep, it has nothing to do with what they fund. They have their funding practices and their philanthropic interests and habits and all that. It's not affected at all. So this is just during spring and fall grant cycles, $10,000 maximum. Yes. Perfect. Okay. So let's get to the good stuff. I'm going to log in to our platform here. Okay. So here is what our grant platform looks like. I'm gonna put this on the chat as well, even if it's literally everywhere. On the guidelines, on our website, all of that stuff. All right, so we're gonna create a new account together and we're gonna look at the application together. So we'll go in, create account, organization name. I'm going to name it the organization. And I am fiscally sponsored. So that means I am not a 501c3. So I am going to put the EIN number of zeros. So I'm going to do 00 dash 00. How many zeros is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 3, 6, 7. All right, I think that's right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Telephone number. I'm sorry, did someone say something? Okay, I thought someone said something. Okay. So it's going to say EIN already exists. You just hit OK because there are lots of fiscally sponsored organizations that apply to our grant cycle. So we're just going to put our telephone number in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. Our address, phone numbers must be in that format. Okay, so let's do that. Address, we're at 123 Pretty Way. We are in Ithaca, New York. Okay. And then your board adopted mission for your organization. All right. We are beautiful humans. That's our mission statement. All right, so user information. So this is, oh, I can't see the next one because my screen, move my screen. So we'll hit next. Okay, user information. That is your information, the person that is filling out this application. So my name is Gloria. I'm not gonna say my last name because I'm already in the system. So I will say Gloria Cherries. And my business title is program manager. Can't spell today. And my email address is testing123@test.com. My phone number. My address. Now, this is not your personal address. This is the organization address. So if you're fiscally sponsored, it's not your personal address. This is your fiscal sponsor's address. FYI. So we're gonna say 123 Waterway. This is in Ithaca, New York. Oh, okay. Now we're gonna hit next. Oh, username confirmation. Copy paste. And it won't let me do that. Okay, so confirmation is testing 123 at test.com. Okay. Are you the organization's executive director? Let's say that I am. It won't ask me the next questions, but let's say that I'm not. I'm just a program director. The executive director still needs to view the application and sign the application, so I'm going to say no. And this is where it'll ask about the executive director's information. So I am going to say George Ferrari. Who's the CEO and his email. Okay, and phone number for them is not required. Anything that's required has an asterisk. So we'll hit next, and then we'll create a password. So something that you remember, and if you're like me, you have the same password for everything, which is the worst thing in the world to do, because once someone figures out your password, you're screwed. All right, create account. Okay, so you'll get this screen that says, did you receive the email? Because there's a confirmation email. You'll check, I have received the email, continue without checking, or I have not received the email. So this is when you'll check your email. But let's continue without checking because I want to show you all what the application looks like. And ta-da, here is our grant portal. Yay. So once you've created your profile, you will see all of our cycles that are active. So on this platform, we do share this grant platform with the United Way and the Legacy Foundation. So you will see their applications on this portal. So don't be alarmed, you are in the right place. So for example, the Legacy Foundation, they have their spring grant cycle that's open and it closes on April 15th. Here are their guidelines. And then the United Way has their grant application open until May 31st. Okay, and then they have the Impact Fund, which is accepting applications until March 29th. So our application is up above here and gives you a little bit of information here. Our grant range is from 500 to 10,000, the due date. And like I said earlier, here are all of the tools that you'll need. So our grant guidelines, which is what we reviewed, that's here. Our Q&A info session from last year is on here, but after today, this session will be up there. Our Grant Writing University recording. So if you weren't at yesterday's workshop, you missed a good workshop. However, the recording is available and the presentation slides are available. So these are additional resources for you. We have included the application questions in a Word format so that if you're like me, you can download it and then you can write your answers, save it, and then that way you can copy and paste from the Word document. We also have application questions in PDF format. And then if you'd like to make a one-on-one appointment with me to review your application, we'll look at your how you want to structure your answers. If you have questions about something, or if you want me to review your application for content and for clarity, you can make an appointment with me here as well. And then an additional resource that we have added starting last cycle was we have started drop-in office hours, and we're calling it coffee time, tea time with Gloria on Tuesdays at 12:30 at Dunkin', the Dunkin' that's right on South Meadow. I'll be there for an hour, 12:30 to 1:30, for anyone who wants to drop in on Tuesdays during the cycle. So that's beginning next week. And then it is going up until April 9th, the day before the application is due. So here's a little message from us. And then again, trust-based philanthropy. If you didn't get to it in the grant guidelines, you're going to get to it here. And then if you need any additional support, here's where to contact us. So you can preview the application, or you can just go in and like apply. So we're going to go in and apply. So the title of my request. So I am calling this staff. Let's call this Pretty Organizations Request for $10,000 for staffing support. Okay. So again, me and my messages, I like my messages. I just like to get things across. So just here's the message. And then just a reminder for fiscally sponsored organizations, do not use you wonder why I'm saying this, right? Because people have done this. So do not use your personal home address. Always use your fiscal sponsor's address. And then I have a little note here about who gets to sign. As the applicant, you get to sign, but the final signature has to be either the executive director or the fiscal sponsor has to fill it out. So we have board adopted mission. Here's where you put your mission. In your own words, what does your organization do? So I don't want just a copy and paste. I want you to really think about what it is that your organization does and how you explain it for someone who doesn't know your organization at all. We ask about your strategic plan. If you guys have a strategic plan, we're going to ask for a link. Let's see if it pops up here. So it'll pop up. I just love when things do what they're supposed to do. I love it. So your strategic plan, if you have a link to it on your website, perfect. Give us the link. If you want to upload a file, you can upload a file. Did you receive a grant from us? Let's say yes. And then a pop-up is going to say, please upload a copy of your grant report. And the way that you get that is through the portal. You go into historical requests, and then you can print out your report that way. If you have any technical trouble, you can contact me, or you can contact Madeline for that. But the reason why we're doing that is because reviewers, and I'm very data focused and evaluation focused, reviewers asked if they could see grant reports while they are scoring your application. So they want to see the work that you've done. So it will add to the depth of the review team process. That's why they're asking for a grant report. Of course, if you didn't receive a grant, you don't have a grant report to submit, and that's totally fine. And then, did you submit your 2023 grant report? You'll say yes or no. If it's yes, wonderful. If it's no, you'll get a pop-up that says, please reach out to me because you need to get your report in before you can apply. Here's where we ask how many full-time equivalents that you have. If you're an all volunteer run organization, you're going to click this one. If you have more than 25, you're going to click more than 25. We want to know how many half-time equivalents that you have. And then we ask general information. Like, I'm not going to go through all of this. Oh, here's also an important one. I had to reword this a couple different times so it's clear. You're going to pick one or the other. So we are a 501c3 nonprofit, or we are fiscally sponsored. So that determines whether or not you'll see the fiscal sponsor information to input the information. So I'm not going to go through all of these because these are self-explanatory. So here are the priority areas that Jim asked about and that I talked about earlier. So priority areas, it asks for your primary priority area. So aging all the way up to women. And then if you choose other, a pop-up will come up and ask you what the other one is. And then here's where you put your secondary priority area. And again, this question is related to the alignment that we do with our specific special interest funds and donor advised funds. And this question here asks about the programs that you provide. So let's say that you chose women as your priority area. Talk about the programs that you provide for women and how it relates to circle backs to your mission. So you always want to go back to the mission. That's what reviewers look for. We ask about the community that you serve. So do you serve rural communities? You'll choose up to 5. Do you serve rural communities, crime victims, just the general population, harm reduction? So all these different areas you can choose from. Tell us a story. This is probably the most important question on the application. Tell us a story about how your organization has impacted an individual, a family, a group, or a community within the last 6 months. We'll share this story with our donor advisors. And this story is a big part, like I said, of your application, because reviewers really look at, you can tell a lot by a story. And some people are good at storytelling and some people just aren't. So if storytelling is an issue for you, I suggest you please reach out to me so we can work through your story. But it's important that the story is complete and it is detailed and it's telling. It's heartfelt. I also suggest that people use primary information, so get quotes from the person or community members that has been impacted by this. So we want to, and this is for donor advisors as well, like they want to feel what you are doing. They want to see your mission pop up out of the screen. So that's very, very important. Your story is important. 2 organizational goals for next year. So separate goal 1 and goal 2. And this is new. So last year we didn't do that. So things would kind of just be jumbled up, but make sure you put goal 1 in one paragraph and goal 2 in a second paragraph. Make sure that those goals are SMART goals. And I talk about this all the time. I talk about it all the time, but I can never remember what the acronym means. It's like specific, measurable, I forget what the A is. Forgot what the R is, and then T is timely. So there's SMART goals. So look up SMART or just Google how to plan your goals or how to write a good goal. So all of that information is very, very important. This is also important. So how do you plan to evaluate progress towards your goal? How do you know that you are progressing? How will you know if you, let's say, need to pivot or make a change? Because we all have goals and objectives, but sometimes things don't go as planned. So we want to know how you pivot and how you plan to address any issues or wrenches that are thrown in your plan. That's what we want to see here. Tell us how you collaborate with other organizations who share common goals. So again, if you're doing something similar with other organizations, are you guys collaborating on certain projects, or are you reaching across the sector or across sectors and looking at other organizations who are not doing the same thing as you, but trying to collaborate? This is where you'll put all of that information. So we do want to see collaboration. We don't want to see this area say NA or none or one or something like that. If you do not, tell us about how you plan to collaborate with other organizations who share common goals. Just make sure that it's detailed in what your plans are, and don't leave any questions blank. That's another thing. Here's the financial part where you'll include your revenue, your expenses, the date of your current fiscal year, and what are all your sources of revenue. So be specific. Let's say that you have 50% of your funding comes from grants, 25% of your funding comes from memberships, 10% of your funding comes from whatever it is. So just tell us where all your sources of revenue comes from. And then we have this comment box regarding your budget. So if there's anything that you want to tell us that we should know, like there was a change in leadership or something came up, or, revenue is more than expenses because, or expenses is more than revenue because. So this is where you will add additional information for not just staff, but of course for our review team members. And then here's where you'll upload your most current financial statement or your budget. Katie, that's your question. That's where you'll upload your financial information. And here is this is changed up a little bit. So there's a little message to you related to DEI and how we support DEI. And we've included some definitions. We realize that for some people, it's difficult and not everybody is on the same page or understanding of what DEI means. So we've included our definitions here so you can relate it to the questions below. And then this statement here, we realize that organizations that are focused on like environmental, sustainability, and animal welfare, these questions might be a little difficult to answer because their community and their populations are different. I like to kind of pick on Saoirse Pastures a lot. It's a potbelly pig farm. And so some of these questions, it's hard to know what the potbelly pigs are thinking or feeling. So I suggest the organizations reach out to me if they have difficulty answering these questions for sure. We want to know the race and ethnicity of the organization's CEO or executive director. And if you don't have one, it would be NA, or if you're a volunteer organization, it would be NA, or you have an option, prefer not to say, or you can self-identify as anything that's not listed up here. And we are doing this so that we know the types of organizations that we are funding, and we're looking at trends. So does data show, and of course I'm very data focused and data driven, but does data show that we are not funding minority and BIPAC-led organizations, you know, what that trend looks like. So those are the questions related to that. Do you currently collect demographic data of your board and your staff? We realize that a lot of organizations are not doing that yet, and that's totally fine. You can say no. We ask if you collect demographic data on the population you serve. So this is also difficult for some organizations because it's hard to look at. I mean, you can't look at someone and say that you know what they identify as. So unless if you're doing surveys or questionnaires, it's difficult. So answer these questions to the best of your ability. We ask that you provide a snapshot of the population that you serve, of course, only if you do capture that data. So for example, it's 30% low income. How much of that low income is Black or minority or BIPOC? We ask if you have a diversity statement. We ask about your approach to inclusivity as far as the workspace. We ask for how you interpret and handle bias, racism internally. So that's an internal operations question. We ask for your impact. And again, community inclusion and engagement. So that's how are you including communities into the way that you are delivering your services. So are you kind of figuring everything out on your own and saying, okay, community, this is what you need? Or are you inviting the community in and saying, okay, community, we are here, inviting you to the table. What is it that you need and what can we do for you? How can we support you? So we want to know if you're doing things like office hours, town halls. Are you inviting community members to be on your board and that sort of thing? So that's the information that we're looking for here. And then we want to know additional information about your DEI that we did not ask you. So this is where you'll just kind of do like a brain dump of anything DEI that you can think of. And again, if this particular group isn't strong, this is where you'll tell us, hey, we're a small organization, volunteer organization. There's only 2 of us, but we are doing everything that we can to be inclusive based on X, Y, and Z. Bye, Katie. So this is where you'll include that information. Do not leave this blank. If you're given an option to add information, take that opportunity to add. And then we ask if you watched our Q&A or participated in our Q&A, and then we ask how you're affiliated. This is a place that you can add additional media. Review team members, and this is a little tip and secret. We love to look at pictures. We love to look at pictures. We love to look at links. So anything that you think will support your application, upload it. So whether it's pictures, a PDF, or whatever it is, your annual report, I don't care what it is. Anything that will help support and promote your application, include it. And signatures. So this is where you as the applicant will sign the application. And again, I cannot stress, because I know when it's signed by you or a different person, you must get the executive director of the organization or the fiscal sponsor to sign off on the application before you submit it. So in order to do that, you have to click on the collaborate button. So once you've completed the application, it all looks wonderful. You included all of the links that I asked for and all of these wonderful pictures. You're like, okay, I need to submit the application, but the fiscal sponsor needs to sign it. So you'll go all the way up to where it says, well, it should say collaborate here. Right, there should be. I think I'm going to have to reach out to our support team and find out why that collaborate button is not up there. So in the event that you haven't had time to complete the application, you can always save the application and then come back to it. But you cannot submit it without that signature. So up here to the right, and it will be there. It's not there now, so I can't show you, but it will be right here. It'll say collaborate. So you'll click that collaborate button, and then a pop-up will show up. And all you got to do is put the email of the fiscal sponsor or executive director, write a little message that says, please review this application. I've done what I've needed to do, sign it, and then you can submit it. So that's the little note that you add. And then it'll send an email to the organization, and then it'll give them access to the application and they can submit it. So it's a lot of information. I know it's a lot of information. This is where I will stop and I'll ask if anyone has any questions. I know a ton of people had to go because I'm a little over, I'm 3 minutes over. But I wanted to stop for a second and ask if anyone had any questions.
Gloria, this is Jean from Groton Community Covered. I have a couple of questions. First one is, can I go back in and change that contact information from last year? Some grant applications allow you to go back in, or do you have to do that?
I have to do that. So yeah, so just let me know once a profile has been created, it's you won't have access to change anything. So if you need to change the EIN number or contact, you can't do that. You have to reach out to me and I'll go in and fix that. Yeah.
Okay, and the second question I have is, we now have an EIN number. We're still working on the 501 status. So does that mean I need to continue to use that 501 section, or no? We have our own EIN number.
So you have your EIN number, but are you officially a
No,
501? Okay. So you'll still need that fiscal sponsor.
okay, all right.
Yeah.
But do I give the EIN number of our
Of the
fiscal?
no. If you're
Our
fiscally
own.
sponsored, you almost got me. If you
Okay.
are fiscally sponsored, you must do 00 dash. It's there. So it's going to be zeros.
Okay, but what I'm asking is, up in the contact information,
Yes.
do I need to change that EIN number to our new number, or do I leave it as it was before?
Leave it as it was.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Jed. Hi, Jed.
So related to my last question, will the portal allow for multiple people from the same organization to have separate accounts?
Good question. So if you know that an organization has previously applied, reach out to me because I will have to connect your profile to that organization. So that way you could see all of the historical grants. You can see all of that information.
Okay.
So reach out to me and then I'll
Will do.
connect your profile to the larger organization.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Of course. Anyone else?
I have another question, Gloria. Could you say a little bit more about the idea of there not being a question on the form about what the grant will be used for, but it's kind of in the title of the grant, right? So like how much do we want to be talking about? Like if we say, for us, it's going to be for staff support because we're super understaffed. And so like, is it okay to be talking about that need?
So if you want to put it strategically in your answers, maybe as it relates to the programs that you provide.
Yeah.
Or the impact. So those areas, but there is no question
Right.
that asks you specifically what you are using that for, because this is not a project-based application. Yeah, very important. And there were some tips I don't know if you were on yesterday's workshop,
No.
but there were some tips for applications that are geared towards project-based versus not project-based. So make sure you
Okay.
get to that link and
I
watch
will.
that. Yeah,
Thank you,
Perfect.
Gloria.
of course. Anyone else? Any other questions? I couldn't have been that thorough.
Gloria, this is John. May I
Hi,
ask
John.
you good afternoon. Thank you again for hosting. May I ask, as a potential applicant, is it possible to be a reviewer for a different sector in which we wouldn't be participating as an applicant?
Yes. Yes, please. So, even if you are an applicant, we still encourage you to be a reviewer. And I say this because, I think it's actually like every cycle. There is an executive director who is a review team member, and then ends up applying, maybe like it's a cycle later. And so since they have this internal understanding of what reviewers are looking for, and have a better idea of our whole community culture, then their application is that much stronger. So there was an organization who did not get funding one round, and then she was a review team member, went through the whole process, and then the next cycle she applied, got 100% full funding because she understood the ins and outs. She knows what review team members are looking for, and it was just beneficial all the way around. And so you can apply to be on a review team because we do, so we have a conflict of interest form you must fill out, and then a confidentiality form you must fill out. And with the conflict of interest form, you'll include, of course, the organization that you represent and any organizations that you're affiliated with. And I take that, and then I will be sure not to assign you any application that you are connected to in any way. Does that make sense? Okay.
Thank you.
Now, in the interest of time, I'll take one more question. Because I ask again, so there's all these resources. I'm not inaccessible, so you can never say I'm not accessible. You can reach me via email. You can come and see me at Duncan on Tuesdays, 12:30 to 1:30, on South Meadow, on Tuesdays. And then you can make an appointment with me, schedule a one-on-one meeting with me to talk about your application or whatever it is that you want to talk about. Those are limited to 2 per organization. And again, I'm very data-driven and oriented. So we learned from last cycle where there was one organization that met with me 5 times and took away from the times for other organizations. So 2 times max. And of course, if there's more information that you need, I will never say I won't meet with you, but just reach out to me, of course. So those are the ways that you can reach out to me. I am accessible. I'm here to support. You are our priority, and I need you to know that, and I need you to understand that. Is there anyone else that has a question before we wrap this up?
Hello,
Hi.
I was surprised at the race ethnicity question on the application.
Okay. What
Why?
surprised you?
Why is that important?
Well, it is important because as a community foundation, I think it's important for us to know the types of organizations that we are funding and looking at those trends. So do we have a history of only funding European white organizations fully? Or do we have a history of funding organizations that are BIPOC led? Are those organizations only getting partial funding and not getting funding at all? So we want to know who needs our support. And it can be vice versa. It can be, we're only funding BIPOC led organizations. Well, why are we doing that? So it goes for all type. We're looking for information and data so that we can better inform our philanthropic practices. Does that make sense, Joe?
Not really. Because if the organization that's asking for funding accentuates their mission for diversity, and then it wouldn't matter to me personally what race this volunteer organization's president happens to be. And I wouldn't think
I-
that it would matter much to the funding organization either.
I understand your concern. I understand where you're coming from. But we, as a philanthropic and a community organization, not a private organization, we like to gather information and we like to know about our organizations. And we like to say that we are funding, you know, XYZ types of organizations. We want to know what our practices have been. And in order to know where we're going, we want to know where we've been. So that's what's important to us. And I appreciate your question, Joel.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Shannon, do you have a question? Shannon Hamilton. She's not on camera and she's on mute, so she must
Oh,
be.
excuse me. The full application, I'm sorry.
There goes Shannon.
No, Joe, go ahead. I'm here. I'm just in my car.
Okay. I'm having a bit of trouble hearing you, so I'm guessing that's why you're on mute. Yes. I'm sorry, I can't hear you, but I just wanted to say hi. Shannon, you're one of my favorite people. So just wanted to say hey. Okay.
Is the full application online?
Yep, everything is live and ready. So,
Great.
so you can actually go in right now and start your application. Everything is live and ready.
Thanks.
Okay. So,
I'm surprised your application doesn't ask when the applicant took a shower.
Yes. I am
is someone still talking? I think Shannon might still be talking. I'm sorry. Oh my goodness, it's a terrible connection. So Joel, again, I appreciate your sentiments. I value what you think, but we as a community foundation, we have our foundation and our culture and our values and what we value, and we're gonna stand true to that. So again, I thank you all for being here. I apologize for the voiceover interruption that we're getting from someone. But if anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out and let me know. Make sure you go on our website, check out all of our events, check out the things that we're offering, the resources. We are here for you. So I hope you all have a fantastic Wednesday. And that's all I got. Take care, everyone. Bye now.